The third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is Karma Yoga, or the path of selfless service. Here, Lord Krishna emphasizes the importance of karma in life. He reveals that it is important for every human being to engage in some sort of activity in this material world. Further, he describes the kinds of actions that lead to bondage and the kinds that lead to liberation. Those persons who continue to perform their respective duties externally for the pleasure of the Supreme, without attachment to its rewards, get liberation at the end. Verse 1. Arjuna said, "Krishna, if knowledge is better than action, why do you want me to fight this terrible war?" Verse 2. My mind is confused by your mixed messages. Please tell me clearly what is best for me. Verse 3. The Blessed Lord said, Arjuna, there are two paths to enlightenment, one through knowledge and one through selfless action. Verse 4. You cannot become free from action just by not doing anything, and you cannot reach perfection by renouncing work alone. Verse 5. Everyone is forced to act by their nature. No one can remain inactive, not even for a moment. Verse 6. Someone who controls the body but keeps thinking about sense objects is deceiving himself and is a hypocrite. Verse 7. But if a person controls the senses with the mind and engages in selfless action, he is superior. Verse 8. Do your duty, because action is better than inaction. Without action, you cannot even maintain your body. Verse 9. Perform your work as a sacrifice for God, otherwise your work will bind you to this world. By doing your duty for God's sake, you will be free. Verse 10. At the beginning of creation, the Creator said, perform sacrifices and they will fulfill all your desires. Verse 11. The gods, pleased by sacrifice, will bless you, and through cooperation between humans and gods, prosperity will come. Verse 12. The gods, satisfied by sacrifices, will supply all your needs, but someone who enjoys these gifts without sharing is a thief. Verse 13. The righteous eat what is left from sacrifices and are freed from sin. But those who cook for themselves alone eat only sin. Verse 14. All living beings depend on food, food depends on rain, rain depends on sacrifice, and sacrifice depends on prescribed duties. Verse 15. Duties are described in the Vedas, which come from God. Therefore, the all-pervading God is always present in acts of sacrifice. Verse 16. Arjuna, someone who does not follow the cycle of sacrifice, lives a sinful life, focused only on pleasure, and lives in vain. Verse 17. But a self-realized person who finds joy in the self has no duty. Verse 18. Such a person has no reason to act or not to act, and does not depend on anyone or anything. Verse 19. Therefore, always do your duty without attachment, because by working without attachment, one reaches the Supreme. Verse 20. Even kings like Janaka achieved perfection by doing their duties, so you should act to set an example for others. Verse 21. Whatever great men do, common people follow. Whatever standards they set, others follow. Verse 22. I have no duty in all the worlds and nothing to gain or achieve, yet I am engaged in work. Verse 23. If I did not engage in action, people would follow my example. Verse 24. If I did not act, the world would fall into chaos, and I would be the cause of confusion and destruction. Verse 25. As the ignorant work with attachment, the wise should also act but without attachment to guide the people. Verse 26. Do not disturb the minds of the ignorant who are attached to action. Instead, inspire them by performing all work in a spirit of devotion. Verse 27. The soul, confused by the modes of nature, thinks it is the doer of actions which are actually done by nature. Verse 28. But the one who knows the truth does not get attached to the actions, knowing the difference between duty and selfish work. Verse 29. The ignorant, attached to their actions, are driven by the modes of nature, but the wise should not disturb them, even though their actions are misguided. Verse 30. Therefore surrender all your actions to me, with your mind on me, free from desire and ego, and fight without hesitation. Verse 31. Those who follow my teachings with faith and without envy are freed from the bondage of actions. Verse 32. But those who, out of envy, ignore my teachings are devoid of knowledge, deluded and lost. Verse 33. Even a knowledgeable person acts according to their nature, for everyone follows their nature. What can suppression achieve? Verse 34. Attachments and aversions for sense objects are natural, but do not be controlled by them, for they are obstacles on the path. Verse 35. It is better to do one's own duty, even imperfectly, than to do another's duty perfectly. It is better to die in one's own duty than to follow another's path, which is risky. Verse 36. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, what drives a person to commit sin, even unwillingly as if forced?" Verse 37. The Blessed Lord said, "It is lust born of passion, which later turns into anger. It is the sinful, all-devouring enemy of the world." Verse 38. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror by dust, or as an embryo is covered by the womb, so is knowledge covered by lust. Verse 39. Thus, a person's pure consciousness is covered by this eternal enemy, lust, which is never satisfied and burns like fire. Verse 40. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the seats of this lust. Through them it covers true knowledge and bewilders the soul. Verse 41. Therefore, Arjuna, control the senses from the very beginning and destroy this sinful desire, which is the destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Verse 42. The senses are superior to the body, the mind is superior to the senses, intelligence is superior to the mind, and the soul is superior to the intelligence. Verse 43. Knowing this and controlling the mind by the intelligence, Arjuna, conquer this formidable enemy, lust, with a strong, determined effort, adverse in every number.